We saved $30,000 in 20 months while raising 4 boys on an income which averaged under $40,000 a year. How did we do it? Extreme frugality. Hi, I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
From Under the Median. We have had so many people ask us, tell us exactly what you did to save that kind of money on your income. So we're going to embark on a 3-part series where we break it down in detail and tell you exactly what we did in order to save that much money on our income. Okay, so the first thing that we did was we set a very specific goal. And the goal had a very specific timeline. We always encourage people to do those 2 things because if you don't have a goal, if you're just saving money just for the sake of saving money, let's say you just have this big savings, this slush fund of money that doesn't really have a purpose, it just becomes too tempting. It becomes a great big green pile of cash that eventually you're going to see something and go, oh, that'd be fun. I've got the money for it. And you're going to spend that money when really that money should be going realistically toward another goal. So set goals, yes, but also make sure that there's a timeline included.
Okay.
The second thing that we did was?
Well, we would track our progress. Now, Hope in these days kept it in a ledger book. We kept everything that we were doing in a ledger book so we could mark off how much we had saved, how much we had to go. So we could track exactly what we were doing. Kind of like those big thermometers you see when somebody's doing fundraising. You have to have some way to know how much you've gone and where you're going.
Right. And you need to have it in front of your face. Keeping those goals where you can see them is really, really important, especially if those are great big goals, right? You want to make sure that you can look at it every day because that is what will keep you on track, is when you can see the goal in front of you. We had all of our paychecks directly deposited into the checking account. Now, why was that important?
Well, if you direct deposit, you don't really see the money. It's not like you go to the bank and you cash it and you have a bundle of cash in your hand. Yeah. So in a way, it's not as accessible to you. And that way, you're going to tend to want to save it more.
The next thing we did was we saved all of our windfall money. Now, what would be an example of windfall money?
Well, a rebate on an item, maybe a $20 bill you find when you're out on a walk.
We actually did that. We found 2 $20 bills one night on a walk. It's the most money we have ever found while we were taking a walk. If you have found money while taking walks, tell us in the comment section, like how much money you found. Because we thought, $40, like that was huge. That was huge, just lying on the street. It was incredible.
It was. Another windfall might be a bonus. Like at the end of the year, I get a bonus. You might have a bonus come in. Any extra unexpected income would be considered a windfall.
Right. We even put birthday money, Christmas money, any extra money that came in. When I did freelance jobs, all of that money went directly toward the goal. And the reason that we allocated immediately toward the goal is because otherwise we would spend it. We would see that as being something that was, eligible to be spent rather than to be saved toward the goal.
Yeah, and then, if you have a garage sale or you sell an item maybe online, eBay, Marketplace, whatever, that could be considered windfall money. It's not a part of your budgeted income.
We cloth diapered all 4 of our boys.
Yes,
we did. And yes, we survived. And yes, they did too.
And I learned how to do it.
That's right.
And Hope even got a bargain on the cloth diapers. They were purchased in bulk. And they actually had Velcro and they worked a lot like paper diapers. The next thing Hope did, which I thought was amazing, she made diaper wipes. And I don't know, I guess she must have went online and found out how to do it, but she would literally saw a roll of paper towels in half, soak those in a solution of warm water, and what was the other ingredient?
Oh gosh, I think it was
some kind of a baby oil.
It was baby shampoo, a little bit of baby oil, maybe some essential oils. It's been a long time.
Yeah, you probably can search online and find out.
And so I made disposable diaper wipes, and I also had baby wash rags really thin, small wash rags that you get that are for babies, I actually used those and soaked them in the same solution that I used to make the disposable diaper wipes. And I used those with the cloth diapers, threw them in the diaper pail along with the cloth diapers when I was done using them, washed them up, and used those over and over and over again.
The next thing Hope did was she made her own baby food. Now, briefly, how did you do that?
You just steam or cook vegetables, and then you literally puree it until it's absolutely smooth. And then I froze it in ice cube trays, and every ice cube was 2 tablespoons. The other thing that I did that really saved money is I breastfed our boys for like forever.
That was
a long time.
that saves an incredible amount of money because formula is very expensive, and it's a lot of work to prepare it.
Now, the other thing that I did that has to do with things that are generally bought in a disposable form is I used cloth menstrual pads. And I would use them when I was menstruating and then rinse them out real well, put them in the diaper pail with the diapers. And so all those items got washed up together and they worked great. I used them for years. The same set of like 7 menstrual pads that I bought, used them for many, many years.
Well, now, in terms of doing laundry, what's a tip that you would have that for saving a little money on laundry costs?
Washing cold water only, wash only full loads, and when you're done washing it, hang it outside to dry. I hung, including 10 loads a week, and that includes those cloth diapers, I hung them out on a line. I still prefer to not use the dryer. The dryer, I think it's 50 cents a load is the average of what it costs. So I figured that I saved $20 a month, $240 a year by not drying my clothes in the dryer.
Not to mention saving wear and tear on the dryer.
One of the things we really want to mention, because we're going to give you lots of tips, we really are. None of these tips is going to save you $500. But all of these tips are going to save you some money. And that is one of the things we learned. When we were saving for this huge goal and still trying to raise 4 boys, one of the things we learned was that we had to look at those nickels and dimes. And people are afraid to do that. They don't think those nickels and dimes matter, but they really do. They add up to dollars. So all of these things we're telling you to, we did every single one of these things. And those things combined was what helped us to reach that goal.
In order to do that, we literally looked at everything that we spend money on and worked on a way to cut or shave or do something with that item. Every particular category that you can think of, we worked on.
We actually had do you remember the mantra we used to say over and over again? Do you remember?
If you can't eat it, we don't buy it.
Yeah, if you can't eat it or wear it, we don't need it.
That's it.
Yes,
yeah.
And that's so funny. And so, yeah, and we repeated that over and over again in our house just to remind ourselves, wait a minute, do we really need this?
Another thing that Hope did, it takes a lot of time. She cooked at home. Not only did she cook at home, she made most everything that we ate from scratch with just the primary ingredients.
You know what? With just a few, like maybe notable exceptions, it's actually cheaper to make stuff from scratch than it is to buy a pre-made mix or buy something that's already put together for you. We saved an astronomical amount of money just by cooking from scratch.
And not only is it cheaper, it's better for you because you're not eating all those preservatives and food colorings and the poisons that are put into processed foods.
Additives.
Poisons.
Put in processed foods. All righty. In addition to cooking at home and making everything from scratch, I also limited my trips to the grocery store. I tried to go to the grocery store once a month, but remember, we were raising 4 boys. So I gotta be honest, that was pretty much impossible. That may have been my goal, but I really didn't reach it very often. I did, however, get it down to once every other week. So every 2 weeks, I would go to the grocery store, stock up. Now, why is that important? Because actually, statistically, the more you're in the grocery store, the higher your average amount that you spend goes up. So really, statistically, you do spend more money, whether you think you are or not, you do wind up spending more money being in the grocery store more.
And when we went to the grocery store, we worked off of a pre-made list, which we would go around the house take an inventory of what we needed, and for the most part, we stuck to that list.
We knew what we had on hand. We always knew exactly what was in the freezer, what was in the refrigerator, what was on the counter, and what was in the pantry. Those are the 4 areas that you need to track really closely in order to drop your grocery budget, is by knowing what you already have on hand. Then when we did go to the grocery store, we really focused on those loss leader items. Loss leader items from a grocery store, those items that are super low price, they're usually featured on either the front or the back page of the flyer. And we would stock up on those. So if broccoli happened to be on sale, let's just say arbitrarily broccoli was at a super low price of 49 cents for a bunch of broccoli. We might buy 3 or 4 bunches of broccoli for our family of 6. And then I would feature that broccoli throughout the week in our menu plan. That's another tip. We always had a weekly menu plan. I would feature that broccoli. We'd have broccoli soup. We would have broccoli casserole. We would have maybe buffalo broccoli florets. We would have broccoli, probably 4 or 5. Now, I didn't just serve broccoli sitting in a bowl.
No, but you had many
featured
ways
it
of
in
making
a
it.
different way. So you
Yeah.
use the same main ingredient and serve it to your family in many different ways. And you are literally cutting your grocery budget almost in half by just utilizing those items you get at a super low price.
Another thing that Hope did, and I wasn't really very good at this, so I let her kind of handle this part of it. You use coupons.
Oh yeah, I
She
was like,
would-
what was I good at?
we don't use coupons that much, because oftentimes coupons are going to be for items that we just don't buy, because we do a lot of whole food eating. So most of those items aren't foods we would eat. But if we found an item with a coupon that we were needing, we were out of it, we needed it, then she would go ahead and use the coupon.
Absolutely.
Save a little bit more money.
Yeah. The problem with coupons is that people buy them for high-priced items that they wouldn't normally purchase anyway, and they wind up spending more money. So, we encourage people to use coupons, but make sure you use them smart. So make sure that you're using them on items you're already going to purchase and you can get for a super low price.
I'll let you take the next one. Hope was good at this one too, using CVS and Walgreens cashback.
CVS and Walgreens,
programs.
they do have cashback programs. So you need to really pay attention to those and purchase those items and make sure that you are utilizing the cashback before it expires, because there's always an expiration date on those coupons. Not so much, CVS used to be really, really aggressive in the discounts that they offered. They're not as much anymore. But you really still can save money. You just have to work a little harder at it now.
Another item that Hope implements is bulk cooking. And that not only saves money, it also saves some time. And it causes you to have to do quite a bit of planning and organizing. But go ahead and speak to that
Yeah,
one.
when you are bulk cooking, I would bulk cook for like 2 weeks at a time. So I would spend probably 7 or 8 hours maybe on a Saturday and cook enough food for at least 2 weeks. And if you're going to do that, what I really encourage you to do is to think about using some of those items to put in the freezer. Because really, you can't cook something and then just stick it in your refrigerator for 2 weeks, because it's going to go bad. So you need to focus on creating items that you can put into the freezer and use for a freezer meal later. But freezer meals have saved us many, many a day.
And that was our next point. So the other thing that Hope does to implement the bulk cooking is weekly meal planning.
When you are planning your weekly menu plan, first of all, make sure, and this is one of the mistakes I made when I first started, I forgot to build in areas in that menu plan for when we have leftovers. Inevitably, something would last for, say, 1 or 1.5 or 2 meals more than I thought it was going to. I'm like, shoot, we're going to have a whole lot of this left over. And so I would deliberately plan 1 or 2 evening meals or maybe lunch on Sunday that were I would just write in potluck meal. So to me, that was, or clean out the fridge meal, whatever you want to call it. But that's your cue to know everything that's left over in the refrigerator, those bits and pieces, I would put them all out on the table. And when the kids heard that it was a potluck meal, they knew that meant they needed to go and they needed to look over, just like you do at a potluck, right? And kind of see what it is that you want to get. And hope that everybody doesn't want the same thing and you wind up splitting a little thing of, pasta 6 ways or something. But it would clean out the fridge. And so that was a great way to make sure stuff did not go bad. Speaking of leftovers, when you put it in the refrigerator, do what?
Where you label it.
Yeah.
Usually I'll put it in a container. I'll label on the top what the item is and what date it was cooked, so we know exactly how old it is. And of course you want to eat them up within a week, usually. That's a pretty good rule of thumb, isn't it? So that way we could very quickly do a quick inspection in the refrigerator and find out what we have available.
The next tip as far as your food budget and food serving is concerned is what we call the KISS method. All right, we invented this acronym when we were engaged, which sounded like we were being very affectionate, but we actually weren't. It was keep it super simple. We were planning the wedding, and everything's overwhelming when you're planning a wedding, right? So he would look at me and say, "Kiss, honey." I was like, "Okay, keep it super simple." So adopt the KISS method for your cooking. Your kids don't need 5 or 6 things put on the table for them at every single meal. We oftentimes, even now, have a bowl of soup, maybe a sandwich or some cornbread or some muffins or something to go with it, and then a piece of fruit for dessert.
Or salad.
Salad or raw vegetables, right.
Yeah.
So that's it. And we're done. We're done eating. We often serve too much variety, and when stuff is left over, then we wind up losing it in the refrigerator and not ever getting back to it, so we wind up throwing it out. And not only that, we wind up serving our kids way too big of portions. Look, they can always take more. Put small amounts of portions on their plate, and if they eat it and they want more, well, then that's fine. But stop serving your kids too many varieties and too much food.
That way you're not wasting food.
Yeah.
The other thing that we did, by choice, we went more vegan. And you save an awful lot of money. Meat costs a great deal, and you can save a lot by eating this way.
Yeah, and we are fully vegan now. We have actually been for about 10 years now. But at that point, we were still just sort of cutting back on the meat that we were still eating. And we noticed that the more meals we had that were vegetarian or vegan, the more money we saved on our grocery bills. So that became like a great incentive. Mm-hmm. And later, it was actually some health concerns that led us to become completely vegan. But it's actually the cheapest way that you can feed your family is by rice and beans. Don't cost a lot of money.
No, they don't. I would pack my lunch every day. I never ate out. Once in a blue moon, I would eat out, but it wasn't very often, like maybe once or twice a year. So I packed my lunch from the leftovers from the night before. I'd usually check in with Hope and say what's available to make sure I wasn't eating their lunch also, because they're at home. She homeschools. And that way I could save an awful lot of money by not going out to eat every other day or so.
An easy way to do it is when you're clearing the table after supper is to go ahead and pre-package the lunches for the next day for whoever is taking lunches. And we still do this exact same thing today, 10 years later. We package up his lunch. Our older boys are working now, and so we might package up something for our son who works and put it in a container and then label it Daniel's lunch or Dad's lunch or whoever's lunch in erasable marker. So that way it will come off of the container when you're washing the container, whoever's lunch it is, though.
And just as a side note, we don't buy a lot of commercially produced containers like Rubbermaid or whatever brand that happens to be out there. We just reuse old cottage cheese containers or ice cream containers. If they're pretty well made, they'll last a long time. We will use one maybe 40, 50 times before it starts wearing out. So we save a lot of money that way.
Yeah, so we repurpose things a lot. Hey, we have a lot more tips coming your way. Just a reminder, this is part 1 of a 3-part series. So you want to make sure that you get all of our tips and strategies for extreme frugality. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button because every single Monday for the next 3 weeks, we'll be dropping a new video your way.